Disley here, and today I'm going to be talking about long service leave. Now, long service leave basically comes under the different states rather than under the national employment standards or any specific modern award, as they're called. New South Wales, the long service leave entitlements are under the New South Wales Long Service Leave Act 1955. What is long service leave? This is paid leave after 10 years of employment with the same employer, whether you are a casual or permanent employee. And for each additional 5 years, you are paid further leave if you remain with the same employer. I will only be giving rule of thumb examples here of how long service leave is calculated and the key concepts only. Let's get into it. What is continuous service to qualify for long service leave? Basically, it's 10 years of continuous service with the same employer. It does include if you have sick leave and paternity leave. However, for example, if you take 1 year off paternity leave with an employer, the employee has to work 11 years to gain long service leave for 10 years. And another aspect of long service leave is any authorised unpaid leave. If the employee returns to the same employer within 2 months of finalising employment, it is counted towards their continuous service. However, if it's longer than 2 months, and I'm a classic example of that, I was with the employer for 3.5 years, took a break, returned for 5 weeks, had another break, and then returned to the same employer approximately 3-4 months down the track. So therefore, my long service leave would be calculated from when I last started with the employer rather than when I originally started. And yes, if the business is sold and you as the employee remain an employee with the new business owner, your long service leave is still calculated from the time that you originally started employment with the original employer. So do casuals receive long service leave? Yes, they do, after 10 years of service, and this is calculated at the highest rate. What they do is they calculate the normal weekly number of hours averaged over 12 months, and then they calculate the average number of hours over a 5-year period. So they look at both calculations. What does that mean? It means is, we'll use Sam as an example. He's worked continuously with the same employer as a casual. His average weekly hours of work over the past 12 months is 14 hours a week. However, Sam's average weekly number of hours over the past 5 years is 18 hours per week. So therefore, Sam is to be paid long service leave for 2 months at 18 hours per week by his current hourly rate. So basically, which is the highest number of hours over those 2 periods. So another example is if you change your employment status from casual to permanent employee. Your long service leave is calculated on continuous service, so therefore the date you were first employed as a casual is the transferable aspect of long service leave, even if you now undertake permanent hours of work. And here's another example for you. Angela was employed as a casual for 10 years ago and maintained her continuous employment with the same employer for 16 hours per week as a casual. A month ago, Angela opted to become a permanent employee and now works 20 hours per week and would like to take her long service leave. Therefore, Angela is entitled to long service leave paid at 20 hours per week at her current hourly rate. And it's the same if she was a permanent. Let's say, for example, Angela worked casual with the same employer for 10 years at 16 hours a week and then opted to become a full-time permanent employee. The higher rate would be her full-time employment, so she is entitled to take long service leave and be paid at full-time hours at her current hourly rate. Another scenario is from changing status from casual to permanent employee. Bianca was employed as a casual 10 years ago and maintained continuous employment with the same employer, averaging 16 hours per week over those 10 years. 2 months ago, Bianca opted to become a permanent employee and now only works 15 hours per week and would like to take her long service leave. Therefore, Angela is entitled to long service leave paid at 16 hours a week times her current hourly rate because the average is higher than her current permanent hours. What if a public holiday falls when you're taking long service leave? Well, basically an extra day is added to your long service leave only if this is a day that you would normally work. So again, looking at an example, Jenny works part-time on a Friday each week and Easter Friday is a public holiday. So if Jenny takes her long service leave over an Easter period, an extra day is added to her long service leave as Easter Friday is a public holiday. What is not included in your long service leave? So there is a rule of thumb here. So basically penalty rates are not included. Overtime rates, shift work rates are also not included. If you are employed and you receive bonuses or commissions, this is averaged out over the previous 12 months rather than any amounts received for the previous pay period or month. However, if your wage is higher than $158,000 per annum, no bonuses are included in your long service leave entitlement. Are there provisions for long service leave entitlements if an employee has worked 5 years, however less than the 10 years? Yes, there are circumstances that long service leave can be paid pro rata. For example, the employee resigns due to illness, incapacity, domestic or another pressing problem. You will probably need to talk to your employer and also seek further advice as to what would constitute domestic or another pressing reason under the Act in order to be entitled to a payout of long service leave on a pro rata basis. And pro rata basis basically just means that you get a portion of your long service leave. If your employment is terminated for any reason other than serious or willful conduct. Basically, in other words, if the employer decides that you are no longer required and you have worked for the employer for 6 years, you are entitled to a pro rata payout of your long service leave. And another aspect which would be up to your family or the executor of your will. If you die and you've worked at the same employer for 8 years, for example, the executor of your will, whether that's a family member or some other nominated person, can seek to have, as part of your estate, your employer pay out the long service leave that you would be owing at that time. Now, I've only given you a quick rule of thumb rather than gone into every aspect of long service leave. You can check out the New South Wales Industrial Relations website and their fact sheets, and they have little audios attached to some of their facts that you can listen to, giving you some different examples of what they're actually talking about under the Act. So that's actually a good one, a good website to bookmark on your computer so that you can easily reference it at the time. I would recommend that regardless of whether you know all about long service leave or not, if you are unsure of any aspect or wanting to know what your exact entitlements are, then contact the New South Wales Industrial Relations body, and they are very helpful and they will walk you through what your entitlements are. They also have on their website a long service leave calculator, so you can calculate what your long service leave is. And for New South Wales, it's part of the New South Wales Long Service Leave Act 1995. Now, one thing I didn't include, which I'll include now, is that long service leave is for 2 months in New South Wales. Different states have different acts for long service leave and different amount of time. For example, I've heard South Australia is 12 weeks or 12.5 weeks. Check in your relative state, but at this stage in New South Wales, it's 2 months. Thank you. Have a great day. Bye for now.